I first came across granulation on a ski trip in Switzerland. And at that time, I had a small antique store and I was designing a little bit of jewelry. And I found a group of rings that came from Bali. I'd never heard of Bali before, but they were completely covered with granulation. The granulation created the pattern on the ring. And I just fell in love with that technique. And I ended up selling my antique store and heading to Bali to explore this new world of granulation that I had found. You create spheres of metal by cutting the metal and torching it. And when you torch silver or you torch gold, it becomes a little sphere. The spheres are then sifted into size. And then traditionally in Bali, they cut a palm frond into a point, and they use this nut that they ground into a paste, and then they place every single sphere on the plate of silver. The difficulty with the technique is that if you heat the metal too much, the little sphere becomes liquid and disappears, and if you don't heat it enough, the sphere falls off, which is why it's an advanced technique. We use it when we cover a whole piece with spheres. Like this piece has tiny little spheres on it, and it covers the complete starfish here. And we call that full granulation. And what that means is that everything has to be placed so that it creates the pattern on the silver, but also it ends up at the edges. So it's actually more difficult than it seems to cover a whole piece with the spheres of granulation. We also use the granulation just as accents. So like on this piece, the granulation creates a little line at the bottom. It doesn't read as different granules, it reads as a line of gold. In this piece, the granules actually are creating a pattern. So they create a pattern on the turtle, they create a pattern on the starfish, and then on the other starfish, we did full granulation. It looks more like a texture than it does individual beads. And then we have also the granules in space. And what that means is within a frame, like on this piece, it's between stones and between the outer frame of the cuff, we have different size spheres that are fused together. They always have to touch the side of the cuff or a piece so that they're actually anchored by different elements. But you can have this open space that you then just fill with little bits of granulation.